I woke up to silence. No buzzing phone. No happy birthday messages. Not even a reminder from my calendar. The clock read 7:12 a.m., and the only sound in my apartment was the soft hum of the refrigerator. I blinked at the ceiling, waiting for anything to break the stillness. But the silence stretched like a taut wire. Then, habit one. I reached for my phone. One swipe, one tap, and there it was, my entire family, sun-soaked and smiling on a beach in Hawaii. Mom's caption, "Surprise trip for our girl. She's the only one who makes us proud, sharing family love." Underneath, hundreds of likes. And Mom's comment pinned at the top, "She deserves the world." I zoomed in on the photo. My sister, Emily, held a cocktail with a pineapple slice. My father's arm was around her shoulders. My mother's hair glowed golden under the sun. It hit me like a glass of ice water. They hadn't forgotten my birthday. They'd erased it. For years, I'd been the fixer, the quiet achiever, the one who made things easier. When Emily crashed her car, I paid the insurance. When Mom needed dental surgery, I emptied my savings. When Dad's consulting job fell through, I adjusted my schedule and sent him half my bonus. But now, on my 28th birthday, while they toasted their favorite daughter on a tropical island I'd helped them afford, I sat alone in my one-bedroom apartment with unpaid overtime on my desk. The irony was exquisite. I took a slow breath, then exhaled. No tears. Just stillness. Then I opened my banking app. At the bottom of the screen, a number blinked back at me, 482,713, down 12. The family fund. The one I'd built, managed, and maintained. The one they believed was theirs. A calm smile touched my lips as I pressed, "Withdraw full amount." A quiet digital confirmation followed. Transfer complete. Every dollar was now in a separate account under my name. The silence in the room shifted. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was clean. "You wanted pride," I whispered to the empty air. "You'll get silence instead." Outside, rain began to tap the windows, gentle, rhythmic, almost approving. At 12:14 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. I let it ring twice before answering. "Maya!" Her voice was breathless, frantic. "Something's wrong with the bank. The Hawaii card's been declined." I leaned back in my chair. "That's strange. Maybe the system finally caught up." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said slowly, "you once told the internet I wasn't part of the family anymore. Maybe the bank just believed you." "Maya, don't be dramatic. Your sister needed this trip. You know how much she's been struggling. You're too sensitive." I laughed softly. "Sensitive? You just told the world she's the only one who makes you proud." A pause. Then that familiar shift in tone, cold, commanding. "You're selfish. We're on vacation, and you're choosing now to make a scene?" "No," I said. "I'm choosing now to end one." And I hung up. No guilt, no hesitation, just quiet, crystalline peace. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my journal. Under the date, I wrote, "Let them feel what I felt. Unseen, unheard, unappreciated." Then I added one more line. "And when they finally call back, it won't be for love. It'll be for money." By morning, my phone was a graveyard of missed calls and desperate messages. Dad, 5 missed calls. Mom, 8 voicemails. Emily, 3 texts. Family group chat, 48 new messages. The subject line of Dad's email read, "Family account emergency." I sipped my coffee and pressed play on his voicemail. "Maya, what the hell did you do? The funds are gone. We can't access the cards. Fix this immediately before your mother has a breakdown." Fix this. It was always my cue, my time, my money, my guilt. I took another sip of coffee and let the voicemail play again. This time, I heard the panic, the fear, the loss of control. It was music. By noon, Emily texted, "You're seriously going to ruin Mom's trip? Grow up. You've always been jealous. You don't even have a family of your own, so stop trying to control ours." I stared at her message, then typed back 2 words. Enjoy budgeting. Then I turned off my phone and walked outside into the bright New York sunlight. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like their backup plan. I felt like my own person. That afternoon, I went to the bank. The teller smiled. "Starting something new?" she asked. I smiled back. "Ending something old." By evening, 36 missed calls blinked on my screen. I didn't answer a single one, because this time, I wasn't their safety net. I was their wake-up call. 3 days later, chaos had reached paradise. A friend of my mother's posted a story from Hawaii. A shaky video zoomed in from across the pool. My parents were arguing loudly. Dad's voice sharp and angry. "She embarrassed us in front of everyone." In the background, Emily sat with her head in her hands, crying. I didn't need to imagine the topic. It wasn't about the money. It was about control. They'd lost the person who cleaned up every mess, and they didn't know who they were without me. That night, an email from Dad arrived. Short, cold. "We're disappointed in you. Your actions are unforgivable. Family doesn't betray family." I typed a reply, then deleted it. Instead, I attached a single PDF titled Financial Records, 2019-2024. Every transfer, every loan, every emergency payment I'd made for them. Then I wrote one sentence. "Family doesn't exploit family either." And I hit send. An hour later, the document had been opened 7 times. The silence after exposure was louder than any argument. 3 days since my last message, and the family thread was still alive, buzzing, desperate, half-civilized chaos. My father tried to hold the center, sending calm, diplomatic texts about reconciliation. My mother fired off emotional paragraphs about betrayal and "how could you?" Emily posted song lyrics about forgiveness on her Instagram story, each one clearly directed at me. It was strange, almost fascinating, to watch them behave like strangers wearing my parents' faces. That night, I made tea and opened my laptop. A new message blinked from my father. "We'll be home in 2 days. We need to talk." I read it twice and smiled. "We need to talk," the family's favorite phrase. It always meant, "You will fix what we broke." This time, I wrote back, "Sure, bring receipts." 2 days later, they returned not from Hawaii, but from whatever version of reality they'd built there. The house looked smaller when I saw it again. My father's shoes by the door, my mother's perfume in the air. Everything unchanged, except me. Mom greeted me with tears she didn't feel. Dad greeted me with logic he didn't believe. And Emily just stood there, arms crossed, waiting for me to fold. I didn't. "I want to make something clear," I said quietly, laying the printed bank records on the table. "This isn't revenge. This is accountability." My father frowned. "You think you're teaching us a lesson?" "No," I said. "I think I'm reminding you I exist." Mom scoffed. "You've always been dramatic." Emily added softly, "You've always been lonely." That one landed deeper than I expected, but I didn't flinch. "I was lonely," I said, "because I thought love meant debt. Now I know it doesn't." For a brief second, none of them spoke. It was the most honest moment we'd ever shared. Then Mom broke it. "You've changed," she whispered. I smiled. I finally stopped being convenient. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed at 1:04 a.m. Emily. I almost ignored it. But something in me, some tiny ghost of sisterhood, answered. "Maya?" Her voice trembled. "Can I come over?" When she arrived, she looked smaller than I remembered. No makeup, hoodie, eyes red from crying. She didn't even sit before she started talking. "They're fighting every day," she said. "Dad blames Mom, Mom blames you, and I—" She swallowed. "I think I understand you now." The words startled me. "Understand what?" "You were right. About the money. About everything. I saw Mom's messages. She told Dad to say the account was for emergencies, but she's been using it for her debts. Shopping, credit cards, private stuff. He doesn't know." I leaned back slowly. "And now you do." Emily nodded. I thought she loved us the same, but she loves control more. Silence filled the room again, heavy, fragile. Then she said the one thing I never expected. I don't want to end up like her. Teach me how to start over, Maya. Please. I looked at her. My sister, the golden child, the one who had everything I didn't, and for the first time, she looked human. Starting over isn't about money, I said quietly. It's about losing everything you thought mattered. She exhaled. Then I guess I'm ready. That night, she slept on my couch. In the morning, she made coffee, washed the cups, and smiled for real for the first time since we were kids. By the end of the month, the storm had calmed on the surface. Mom stopped calling. Dad sent one stiff email about restructuring our finances. Emily stayed with me, applied for a new job, and began paying off her own credit cards. But the quiet felt staged, like the calm after a confession no one fully made. One afternoon, Emily handed me her phone. Mom posted something weird, she said. The post read, "Sometimes the ungrateful child must learn that success without forgiveness is failure." Thousands of likes, comments from her friends. So wise, so true. I stared at it for a long time. Then I wrote a message under it. Forgiveness isn't owed, it's earned. M. The comment exploded, half the followers cheering her, half defending me. It became a small digital war. Emily looked terrified. You shouldn't have done that. But I just smiled. She started it in public. Let's finish it there. That night, I got a private message from my father. Enough. Whatever you're doing, stop. You're destroying your mother. I typed back. She destroyed herself when she taught her daughters that guilt is a currency. He didn't reply, but I didn't need him to, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't explaining myself. I was simply existing, and existence, in its quiet defiance, was the most expensive gift I'd ever given them. A week after the social media fallout, I received a letter, an actual paper envelope, heavy, official. Law offices of Peterson and Klein. My stomach tightened. Inside was a short note. You are listed as an executor of the Hart Family Trust. Immediate review required. Executor? No one had ever mentioned a trust before. At the office, the lawyer explained with a practiced neutrality. The trust was established 10 years ago. It holds your parents' primary assets, property, savings, insurance. You and your sister are equal beneficiaries. He paused. However, there's a clause that grants temporary control to whichever child your parents designate as most financially responsible. I almost laughed. Of course. So, I said slowly, who did they name? He checked the file. You. For a moment, the room felt silent enough to hear the second-hand tick. Then it hit me. My parents had trusted me with everything, even while publicly diminishing me. Legally, the lawyer continued, you have authority to manage or freeze the assets until further notice. I thanked him, signed the papers, and walked out into the gray afternoon. It felt poetic, almost cruel, that the same people who accused me of betrayal had unknowingly handed me full control. That night, I poured a glass of wine and whispered, "Happy inheritance, Maya." But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like responsibility, the kind I no longer owed anyone but myself. 2 days later, Dad showed up at my apartment unannounced. He stood at the door, hands in his pockets, trying to look composed. "Can we talk?" he asked. We sat across from each other, like strangers at a negotiation table. "I know about the trust," he said. "We meant to tell you, but—" "You thought it would control me," I finished. He flinched. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I said softly. "You gave me responsibility without respect." He leaned forward. "Maya, your mother isn't well. This stress—" "Stop," I interrupted. "You're not here for her. You're here because you realized you can't touch the money without me." The words landed like stones. He looked away, and for a second, I saw something crack in him, not anger, but shame. "I did what I thought was best," he said quietly. "No," I replied. "You did what was easy." He stood up. "If you think you're punishing us—" "I'm not," I said. "I'm saving myself." And that was the last conversation we ever had face to face. Months passed. Emily grew stronger, freer. She moved into her own apartment, got promoted, and even joined my financial literacy workshops. We never talked much about our parents again until one night. "I visited Mom," she said, eyes downcast. "She's softer now. Tired, maybe. She asked about you." I stayed quiet. "She said she regrets how things turned out. She misses you." I smiled faintly. "She misses control, not me." Emily shook her head. "No, she's different." I didn't believe her, but I didn't argue either. Then she said something that stayed with me. "You know, I think we both inherited the same thing from them, not money. Silence. They used it to manipulate. We can use it to heal." It was the first time I realized silence didn't always have to mean distance. Sometimes it was simply peace. A year later, I returned to my childhood home, not for reconciliation, but for closure. The house was smaller than I remembered. Dust in the corners, silence in the walls. Mom sat on the porch, older somehow, like time had folded differently for her. "I didn't think you'd come," she said. "I didn't think you'd ask." She smiled weakly. "I didn't. Emily did." We sat in silence for a long time. Then she spoke. "I was wrong, Maya, about how I measured pride and love and worth. I thought control meant care. I was wrong." I didn't cry. I didn't forgive, not fully. But I felt the anger loosen, like untying a rope that had been cutting into my own hands. "I hope you find peace," I said. She nodded slowly. "You already have." Before leaving, I slipped a sealed envelope onto the table, my official resignation as trustee. The assets would revert equally to her and Emily. My final act of closure wasn't revenge, it was release. 1 year later, Athens, Greece. A quiet beach, white sand, soft wind. It was my 30th birthday, no calls, no family messages. And for the first time, that didn't feel like loss. I opened my laptop, checking the latest report from the Heart Foundation for Financial Independence, the nonprofit I'd built from the remains of the family fund. Dozens of women funded, 3 new scholarships launched, 2 new chapters opening overseas. Then a message popped up. From Emily, subject: "Proud of you. Mom saw your interview." She cried. Not out of guilt, I think. Out of pride. I smiled softly and typed back, "Tell her I'm happy she's still learning. I am too." Then I closed my laptop, leaned back, and let the sea wind wash over me. For the first time, the silence didn't echo, it breathed. I whispered to myself, "Happy birthday, Maya." And somewhere between the tide and the sky, I realized peace wasn't the absence of family. It was the presence of self.